walks into a Rolex authorized dealer on a Saturday morning. He wants to buy a Submariner, the iconic black dial dive watch that has been in continuous production since 1953, listed at $9,100. Jake has the money. He is ready to complete the transaction today. And the salesperson tells him something that stops him completely. The Submariner is not available. There is a waiting list, potentially 2 to 3 years, and Jake cannot even add his name to that waiting list until he has established a purchase history with the boutique by buying other watches first. Jake walks out of the store, pulls out his phone, and within 2 minutes finds the identical Submariner. Same reference, same specifications, listed on a gray market dealer's website for $15,000. $6,000 above the retail price Jake was just told he cannot access. And the question sitting in Jake's mind as he stands on the pavement outside the Rolex boutique is not why the gray market dealer is charging $15,000 for a $9,000 watch. The question is whether what just happened inside that boutique was a scam dressed in a luxury retail environment, or the most sophisticated supply-side wealth preservation mechanism ever built into a product that fits on your wrist. Today I am going to decode that question completely and show you the full economics of owning a luxury watch collection, the artificial scarcity economics that drive everything. Here's the economic decision that defines the Rolex business model, and that separates Rolex from every other luxury goods manufacturer on earth. Rolex deliberately produces fewer watches than the market demands. This is not because Rolex lacks the manufacturing capacity to make more Submariners, or more Daytonas, or more GMT Masters. Rolex has the resources, the factories, and the workforce to produce significantly more watches than it currently does. The decision to produce less is intentional, strategic, and economically brilliant, because the moment Rolex produces enough Submariners to satisfy all demand, the waiting list disappears. And the waiting list is the product that Rolex is actually selling, not the watch, the experience of waiting for the watch, of becoming a valued customer of an authorized dealer, of being called when your allocation is available, of owning something that most people who want it cannot access. Is the product that generates a $15,000 gray market price for a $9,000 watch. And here is the economic consequence of that manufactured scarcity. Rolex generated approximately 9.35 billion Swiss francs in revenue in 2022, making it the highest revenue watch brand in the world, at prices that are accessible to upper middle class professionals, not just billionaires. No other luxury goods company has built a waiting list culture so effectively for a product at such a relatively accessible price point. Rolex is not selling a watch. It is selling membership in an exclusive club and controlling the pace at which new members are admitted, the investment watch versus consumption watch distinction. Here is the economic framework that determines whether a watch collection builds net worth or destroys it, and that most people who buy luxury watches never apply with sufficient rigor before their first acquisition. The overwhelming majority of watches, including most luxury watches from well-known brands, depreciate immediately and continuously from the moment of purchase. A watch bought at a department store for $3,000 in a recognizable luxury brand might be worth $1,500 at a pre-owned watch dealer 6 months later, because the secondary market for generic luxury watches is saturated with supply from people who receive them as gifts, upgraded to something better, or simply need the money. The watches that appreciate, that genuinely function as investment assets, have 3 characteristics that almost always appear together. First, they are from a small number of specific brands that have demonstrated decades of secondary market appreciation, primarily Rolex, Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, and a small number of other references. Second, they are specific references within those brands. Not every Rolex appreciates. Not every Patek appreciates. Specific references with limited production numbers, significant historical importance, or connection to cultural moments that creates collector demand. And third, they are in original condition, with original documentation, original box and papers, and ideally a traceable ownership history. A Rolex Daytona reference 6239 from the 1960s with a Paul Newman dial, which the actor Paul Newman was photographed wearing extensively, trades at auction for between $300,000 and $1 million. A reference 6239 without the distinctive dial might trade for $20,000 to $50,000. The same base watch, different face, the story creates the value. The 2021 bubble and the 2022 correction economics. Here's the most important recent economic event in the luxury watch market. and the one that separated long-term collectors from short-term speculators in the most financially painful way during the COVID lockdowns of 2020 and 2021. High net worth individuals globally who could not spend money on travel, restaurants, events, and experiences redirected discretionary spending into collectible assets, watches, art, trading cards, NFTs, cars, and the combination of increased demand and pandemic disrupted supply chains at Swiss manufacturers drove the secondary market prices of Rolex and other investment-grade watches to levels that had no historical precedent. A Rolex Submariner that retailed for approximately $8,500 reached secondary market prices of $22,000 to $25,000 in the first half of 2022. An AP Royal Oak that retailed for approximately $22,000 reached secondary market prices of $70,000 to $80,000. And a generation of first-time watch investors, who had never experienced a watch market correction, entered the market at peak prices, treating watches as momentum investments rather than long-term value stores. In late 2022, the bubble deflated sharply. By 2024, the Submariner had returned to approximately $13,000 to $15,000 in secondary markets. The AP Royal Oak had fallen to $40,000 to $45,000. The speculators who bought at peak 2022 prices had lost between 30% and 50% of their investment in less than 2 years. The long-term collectors who had owned their watches for 5 or more years before the bubble, and who held through the correction without panic selling, experienced the bubble as a remarkable paper gain that partially unwound, but were still ahead of their pre-bubble acquisition prices by significant margins. The carrying cost economics that make watches so favorable as collectibles. Here is the dimension of watch collection economics that genuinely distinguishes it from car collecting. And that makes watches the most economically efficient physical luxury collectible for most serious investors. The carrying costs are remarkably low relative to asset value. A watch collection worth $5 million requires approximately $50,000 to $100,000 per year in insurance, which is comparable to a car collection of similar value. But the storage costs are radically different. A secure watch storage solution, a quality safe with climate control and humidity management, cost between $1,000 and $15,000 as a capital investment, compared to the $36,000 to $180,000 per year in storage fees required for a car collection of equivalent value. And the maintenance economics are similarly favorable. A Rolex service costs approximately $800 to $1,500 and is required every 5 to 10 years. A Patek Philippe service is more expensive at $2,000 to $5,000, but still represents a fraction of the annual maintenance cost of a comparable car collection. The authentication challenge that creates risk. Here is the economic risk that most new watch buyers dramatically underestimate, and that has cost millions of dollars to collectors who purchased without proper due diligence. The luxury watch market is one of the most targeted markets for sophisticated counterfeiting in the world. Counterfeit Rolex watches of sufficient quality to deceive casual observers sell for between $100 and $1,000 in markets across the world, and a category called Franken watches. Watches assembled from a mixture of genuine and counterfeit components can deceive even experienced collectors who do not apply rigorous authentication. Original papers and box documentation, typically referred to in the watch community as a full set, adds approximately 20 to 40% to the value of any investment-grade watch, because papers provide authentication that reduces the due diligence burden on the buyer. And the collector who accumulates 20 watches without papers, and with an incomplete provenance chain, has a collection that will be discounted significantly at auction or private sale relative to a collection of equal watches with full documentation. The gray market economics decoded. Here's the explanation for the $15,000 Submariner that Jake found on the Gray Market website, and the answer to whether the Rolex boutique experience was a scam or a wealth preservation mechanism. The gray market for Rolex and other high-demand watches exists because Rolex authorized dealer network cannot legally sell watches above the suggested retail price. When an authorized dealer receives an allocation of Submariners, the watches must be offered to waiting customers at exactly $9,100. But some of those customers who receive their allocation and buy the watch at retail immediately sell it to a gray market dealer for $12,000 to $13,000, taking a $3,000 to $4,000 profit for having access to the Rolex waitlist. The gray market dealer then sells the watch to buyers like Jake for $14,000 to $16,000, taking a $2,000 to $3,000 margin for providing the service of immediate availability without a multi-year wait. The system works because Rolex artificial scarcity creates a persistent gap between retail and secondary market prices that generates profit opportunities at every level of the distribution chain. And Jake's decision is whether the $6,000 premium for immediate availability is worth paying for a watch that might be worth $12,000 to $15,000 in the secondary market for years to come, or whether the economic discipline of getting on an authorized dealer waiting list and paying $9,100 when his allocation arrives is worth the 2 to 3 years of patience it requires. The complete collection economics. Here's what the economics look like for a thoughtfully constructed luxury watch collection, built over 10 years with the 3 investment criteria applied consistently. Initial investment of $300,000 in 5 carefully selected references: Rolex, Patek Philippe, and a P, all in original condition with full documentation. Average secondary market appreciation of 8 to 12% annually. Total collection value after 10 years, approximately $640,000 to $930,000. Total carrying costs over 10 years, approximately $80,000. Net return after costs, approximately $260,000 to $550,000 on a $300,000 investment, which is a competitive return that has required less active management than an equivalent equity portfolio and has produced objects of extraordinary mechanical beauty that Jake has worn, enjoyed, and shown to people who understand their significance. Jake stands outside the Rolex boutique, phone in hand, staring at the $15,000 Submariner on the gray market website, and makes the economically correct decision. He goes back inside, introduces himself to the sales associate, asks what watches are available today, buys a different Rolex that is available at retail, starts building his purchase history, gets on the wait list, and waits. Because the economics of patience, in watch collecting as in every other form of long-term investment, are always better than the economics of urgency. You have been decoded. If this video made you think about the watch on your wrist and the watches you have been dreaming about from a completely different economic perspective, subscribe to Money Decoder 3004 every single week. We decode the economics of the alternative investments and luxury assets that most people experience only as objects of desire. Simply, honestly, and clearly, drop a comment below. Do you think a carefully selected watch collection is a better investment than gold or the stock market? Tell me your honest view below. I read every single comment, and I will see you in the next Decode.